Oh my goodness. That is so big. If there's a fish that swims, I need to catch it. Freshwater, saltwater, from a boat, from a kayak, or from 4 inches of ice. I thrive off the new experiences fishing gives me. I'm an ex-fishing guide turned videographer, calling Lake of the Woods, Ontario my home. I'm Jay Siemens, and this is the Canadian Angle. In the past few years, my passion for making my own tackle has really grown. From making my own soft plastics to pouring my own lead jigs, there is just something special about catching a fish on a bait you made yourself. To start off this episode, I share the steps of what it takes to create a lure. Then we pack up and hit the water in search of some walleyes that will hopefully fall victim to my homemade creations. So probably, 17 years ago, young Jay was on the internet and I entered pretty much every fishing photo contest I could find. I thought, I have some fish photos. I'd caught 1 or 2 decent sized fish. I'm gonna enter some contests. And I'd also sign up for free magazines. So I'd go online and anyone that would send me their free brochure of lures, boats, whatever it might be, they were gonna get sent to my house. So I got, bundles of mail. I love getting mail, love looking at the recent fishing tackle, even though I couldn't afford most of it at 15 years old. But one day I got a piece of mail from Do It Molds, but this was special. I looked at the back of it and my face was on it. I got second place in their photo contest, which landed me a $200 Do It Molds gift card. And that is where Jay's Jig started. With the $200, I bought my first lead melter, which I still have here. I bought my first couple molds and I dipped my feet into the world of lure making. Fast forward now, 15, 17 years later, it's turned into a bit of an obsession. And I'm gonna share with you guys the art of lure making. I don't pretend to be an expert, but it's a hobby for me to make my own jigs, make my own soft plastics. And the goal today is make some baits and then head out on the water and hopefully catch some walleyes with those baits we made. So, people make lures for different reasons. One of, I would say, the most popular reasons for people making baits is you can customize it exactly how you want. You can pick any hook, because sometimes the store-bought baits might not have the hook you want. So you might want a little bit of a longer shank or a beefier hook. For soft plastics, you might want a certain color you can't find. So I would say the most popular reason for people making baits is obviously the customization. Make it exactly how you want. Secondary, if there's a bait you use a lot of, let's say it's a swim bait or a walleye jig, you can make a ton of them and then it will pay for itself. If you're only making a couple of each bait, it's probably financially not the best decision. But for me, a swim bait or a swim bait jig, a walleye jig, that sort of stuff, I'm using those all the time, especially if you're guiding and your guests are losing a lot. Make a bunch of the same bait and if you're making lots, it will pay for itself. So anyways, today, like I said, we're focusing on walleye gear. We're gonna make a couple swim baits. We're gonna make a couple swim bait heads. Here's my collection I've acquired over the last couple of years. Here's one mold we're probably gonna make a bunch of. This is just your basic, it's called a round head jig. We'll make a bunch in probably the 1/8 ounce size. And these molds aren't that expensive. They're like $40 to $60 American. Here's our lead melter. So lead turns liquid at 330 degrees Fahrenheit. I've plugged this pot in. There's a bit of residual lead from before, but we were gonna add some more, and people get lead from different places. Finding lead for a jig maker is it's like striking gold. So right down here, I got, this is my stash. I've melted it down into these bars, some smaller pieces too that are a little easier to put into the mold. So right now, we're gonna drop a couple of these bars in. And I will say, before we get started, you gotta be safe. Kind of the core things you need is safety goggles, gloves, some sort of mask, and then good ventilation. I've cracked the door on the shop, so there's some airflow. So as I mentioned, we're gonna take some of these chunks of lead. We already got this hot, and watch this. It's gonna melt down, and it will just disappear into that pot. If your lead is dirty or wet, be very careful of that because it will splatter a little bit. I've gotten lead on my skin before. It is not fun. So you just wanna be careful when you drop that chunk in. All right, we're gonna add one more piece in here and watch it just dissolve. So cool. So all this stuff on the top, if you have dirty lead, you're gonna wanna scoop all that sludge off the top. I'm scooping that junk off the top, and then I just throw it in the bottom here in the mold. This pot right here, it's got the little lever on the side, and you lift it, and it just shoots the lead right out the bottom. But for the first jig, we're gonna use some Gamakatsu hooks, probably some size 1, and we're gonna make some 1/8 ounce walleye jigs. Good, I'm gonna close it. This lead, it just hardens so fast. As soon as you open the mold, it's good to go. So the next step is breaking this little top part off. That's called the sprue. So you can just grab it with pliers, you can get cutters, and then just wiggle it back and forth. And there you have a perfect walleye jig, 8 ounce. This one's got a worm nose jig it's called. So we're gonna make some 3/16, quarter ounce, maybe even 5/16 with some bigger hooks. All right, well, we got a good mess of jigs made and we're gonna paint them next, which is, you know, an art as well. Here we have something called an air bubbler. Essentially, this is your fish tank bubbler you'd use to oxygenate your water. And then you've got this device on the bottom. And I've got these different little tubes that have my different color paint. So you've got some white with a little glitter in it. You've got pink, I've got black, I've got watermelon. You take this tube and you fit it in there and it's gonna blow air into the bottom. But on the bottom of each of these is like a fine membrane that allows the air to go through. So it'll actually push underneath. It'll push all of that powder paint apart. And it's just a great way to paint your jigs because you're getting a nice, even, fine coat. So when I plug it in, see how it puffed up? So now you can see as I swirl it back and forth, it looks like a liquid because it's all that air pushing all those little paint particles apart. So like I said, your paint goes way further and you get an even coat. So we've got the bubbler ready to go. Now we need to heat up the lead first. So I've got a heat gun for that. So basically I'm holding the jig over the heat gun right now, kind of spinning it around to get even heat, giving it a couple seconds. Make sure it gets nice and hot, and then I'm gonna spin it and give it a little swirl in that paint, and you'll see that powder paint actually liquefy. And right there, that's a pretty perfect even coat on that jig. So now it's done. It is wicked hot, so I'm gonna grab it. And I'm just gonna put it on one of these hooks here. There's another step for those jigs yet, but now we're gonna get all of them painted. I think we're gonna go white for most of them. White is a good confidence color for me for walleyes. Next step is bake it for 350 degrees for 20 minutes. So I have an old toaster oven. All right, we got it set to 350 and we're gonna bake it for 20 minutes. We will hear a ding when it's done, but now it's time for soft plastics, which is a little bit different of an art form. I feel like there's a lot more creativity you can get put into soft plastics. We're gonna make some swim baits, pretty basic. So I hold on to a lot of my soft plastics, and one way I can make plastics is I'll sort them out into similar colors. If it's like a bait fish color or a craw color, I'll melt those down. So that's one option if you want to reuse your plastics, and that's definitely something I do. The other option is plastisol. This stuff right here kind of looks like milk. Yeah, it's the liquid form before it kind of like solidifies. So basically what you do is you microwave this and it turns into that more of like the gelatin state or whatever you want to call it. I'm gonna shake it up real good. We're gonna pour some of that in. From my personal experience, using less, it's a little easier to manage. When you pour more, it's a little tougher to monitor the temperature. I'm gonna put it in for a couple minutes, stir it, put it in for a couple minutes, stir it. If I just put it in for 5 or 10 minutes, there's a chance to burn it, and when you burn the plastic, it turns yellow. So there's kind of a fine line on where you want it. We're gonna start with 2 minutes, and then we'll check on it. All right, so we're gonna pull it out and give it a little check. It'll turn clear when it's ready to go. All right, we'll put it in for another minute. All right, so as that's microwaving, we're gonna pick our baits. June, July walleye fishing, I really like throwing a swim bait, a 3 to 5 inch swim bait. This one right here is called the Slick Shiner. It's 3.5 inches. Perfect minnow style bait. This one's a little bit of a longer, narrower body. This one's called the Quake and Shad. This one's 4.25 inch. Right here, this is just such a good staple, a 3 inch, it's called a Ripper, just a 3 inch swim bait. You can catch everything with this. You pour one round, and that's like probably $5 or $6 of plastics. But let's check on our plastisol. So as you can see, the plastic is starting to get a little bit clearer. While that's doing its hopefully last or second last round of microwaving, we're gonna go pick colors. There's a couple different things you can add. You can add dye, you can add glitter. There's some really fine glitter you can add. So these are called hyper highlights. And that's basically just a powder, but you can kind of see it's gonna give it that blue tinge all the way through the bait. And I love a blue minnow sort of looking bait. So that's what we're gonna focus on right now. We're gonna use some of this blue powder and then some bigger silver glitter. I think is gonna give us a nice minnow pattern. All right, so our plastic is clear now. There are some bubbles, which isn't ideal, but it'll be fine. So this plastic is pretty much good to go. Next step now, so we're gonna add some of this hyper highlight, this powder. And this changes everything. Even just right there, it's that white creamy with a blue tinge. It's beautiful already. We're gonna add a little bit of flake, and you wanna add your color later because your color can burn. All right, now we're gonna pour it in and we're gonna start making some soft plastics. All right, here we go. So basically I just wanna spray them right to the top, and I'll even like try to top a little bit up just because sometimes it takes a little bit to fill all those cavities. This is the fun part when you open them up and see what you got. So these are the 4 1/4 inch swim baits. Look at this. These are beautiful. These are beautiful. So you rip off, kind of like with the lead, you rip off that little top piece. Look at those gorgeous swim baits. 4 1/4 inch. That's gonna be a walleye slayer right there. Man, I'm pretty happy with how those are turning out. So this is a 4 inch paddle tail style. I have so much confidence in this minnow style swim bait. You wanna let them set nice and flat. You don't want them all bundled up in a tackle box right away because they will firm up in their shape a little bit. So this one's got 8 cavities, I think. So even right there, 1 round, that's like basically buying a pack of soft plastics, and that's, you know, I'd use that anywhere, any day to catch a walleye. All right, well, here's our array of soft plastics. I just heard the oven ding, so that means our jigs are good to go. That paint is gonna be rock hard on there, and let's rig one up just to see kind of what I'm thinking we're gonna throw tomorrow. Probably the 4 inch swim bait on this 5/16 head. That looks pretty good right there. I'd eat that if I was a walleye. Right there, that looks like a pretty good little package for casting in the shallows, and that exactly is what we're gonna be doing the next couple days for walleyes. All right, we made it out here. The jigs are still warm. That's how fresh they are. All right, we're rigging up. I think a walleye will eat that. Looks pretty good to me. This is the heaviest jig we poured. This is the 5/16. Should be good for just working fast as we're searching and looking for fish. Once we pinpointed them, might go a little bit lighter, might, you know, try a different technique, slowing down, smaller jigs. Anyways, start with this. All right, we're gonna go over gear, exactly all the specific stuff we're using, but for now, I wanna get fishing. And I like catching walleyes. I like catching big walleyes, but catching a fish on a lure you made, there's just something about it. If it's a fly that you tied yourself, a jig you poured, a plastic you poured, I don't know, there's just a little something extra. We're gonna get out here. We're fishing a main lake reef. We're gonna be fishing some shallow bays. It's June. Walleyes can be a little bit of everywhere. So right now my boat's sitting in like 28 feet of water and I'm casting in 10 feet, and a swim bait's just so good. I like using swim baits in shallower water. Once you get much deeper than like 20 feet, there's a little tougher to work. They've got so much resistance that you have to end up using a massive jig head to get down and to feel bottom properly. So not that you can't use them deep, but I think they really excel in like less than 15 feet of water. And this time of year, you can catch walleyes in, you know, 3-4 feet of water. I think today we're I think today we're gonna focus on that like 5 to 15 foot range. We are hooked up. I don't know if this is a walleye, we'll see. It feels kind of squirrely. I'm thinking smallmouth, that's my guess. Nope. Well, we got the skunk out of the boat. My lures do catch fish. Jay's Jigs, it's open for business. The old slew snake, beautiful. After you catch a pike or any toothy fish, always run your fingers along the line because it's so easy to just get excited. I want to cast out and catch another fish. And all of a sudden there's a nick, your next hook set, pop, it's gone. So, all right, let's get out of here. We're moving. Don't call that a success yet. That initial cast, I'm just letting it fall. I'll even like sometimes give it a little bit of slack just so it doesn't swing the jig towards me. But I'm let it hit bottom, tighten it up, and then swim it a couple feet, let it hit. Swim it a couple feet, let it hit. Always making sure I'm touching bottom. And so often you'll feel it hit bottom, you'll crank it, and then wham! Oh, this is good. There's a pot of fish here. Right in the back of this bay, finally getting a little action. Come on. Oh, on the fall, just drilled it. Again! Feels like my bait got pantsed. This is what getting pantsed is right here. Essentially, when a fish pulls down your pants. So a little crazy glue helps that. All right, I'm gonna try one of these smaller ones. It's a little bit of a bigger kick, a little bigger profile. It is only a 3-incher, the other one was I think 3.8, but I'm always tinkering. I think there's a fish hiding in this tree still. Walleyes will hide out in wood as well. It's not just bass, they use wood. Oh, there we go. What do we have? We got the right flavor. There you go, he flipped it out. Jay's Jigs, now in business. I don't want to say I was switching bait styles, but that was like the second cast. That one is definitely gonna be dinner right there. A walleye that size will feed me just fine. All right, so after seeing the couple fish on electronics and catching that one, missing a couple, we're gonna focus super shallow. I was thinking they'd be a little deeper, but I think we're gonna try like, yeah, less than 6 feet of water. And we'll likely catch some bass too. I think just this time of year you can catch everything shallow. There we go. Nice walleye. Probably a little bigger than I should be boat flipping. You got a nice chunky, nice chunky walleye. He wants to go back. We're gonna let this guy go back. Awesome. Fish are shallow. You can see on the shoreline right here, it goes from straight rock and all of a sudden you got some grass and a little more wood. You can just tell it's more of a gentle slope. Without even looking at my electronics, I can tell it's a more gentle slope, and that seems to be kind of where the fish are sitting, on that shallower, muddy bottom. So, I mean, yes, it's nice to have the electronics, but a lot of these things you can figure out visually. There we go. What do we got? This fish is swimming towards me. Angry little walleye. Easy release. There's more down there. Oh, this fish has some weight. This might be more what we're looking for. That was in like 4 or 5 feet of water. Oh, it is staying right down. Oh, that's a nice walleye. Look at that beauty. That's net worthy. There we go. That's more like it. It's almost like that walleye knew there was gonna be a camera, because that jig is just so perfect, hanging out of his mouth. And yeah, that fish was in like 4 or 5 feet of water, like bass depth. Sweet, probably like a 23, 24-inch walleye. All right, she's going back. Well, that's what I like to do right there. Throw a swim bait in the shallow water and get just throttled. As far as the setup goes, I really like a 7.5 foot rod. 7.5 foot, medium power, fast, 10-pound braid, like a 2500 size spinning reel. It's perfect for throwing these baits, but we're gonna give it a couple more casts here. One other piece to mention is this clear chunk right here. This is a fluorocarbon leader. I'm using 12-pound today, but yeah, anywhere from 8 to 15 sort of, just to give you that invisibility. All right, we're gonna just spot lock in a bay here. I'm gonna pull out the camp stove and we're gonna have some shore supper. We're not actually gonna go on shore, so I don't know if you can still count it as shore supper, but I am ready to eat some walleye and then get back to casting. Bump boards, this measuring stick also doubles as a very nice cutting board, so that's what I'm gonna cut the walleye on. I didn't bleed the walleye. I'm not totally sold on bleeding walleyes. I think it might make your flesh a little cleaner, but I'm not sure if there's much of a taste difference. But anyways, some of the freshest walleyes. There goes the ribs. This last step is called pant legging. These fine little bones down the middle. It makes a little pair of pants. All right, there's dinner. All right, we're keeping it real basic tonight. We're just doing some pan-fried fish, minimal, a little bit of oil or butter, we'll catch and cook. No milk, just a little bit of water on there. It's just moist. You don't always need to bring milk or eggs along. All right, does it get better? Sun's setting. Walleye I caught half an hour ago. It's starting to sizzle. All right, now we wait. One of the easiest ways to tell a fish is done is if you just do the break test. If you break it apart and it's opaque, she's good. That needs a little more. Well, actually, no, that pulled apart pretty good. I add Frank's to like every fish recipe. Can't go wrong with some hot sauce. We'll just add it into the sizzle. So it burns your nostrils, you know you're doing it right. I can eat buffalo fish like every day for the rest of my life. Well, not too long ago, we were making lures. Those lures then turned into walleyes, and this walleye now turned into dinner. Every step of it's been enjoyable. That walleye did not stand a chance. Probably about an hour of fishing left, and that is prime time. It's when a lot of the fish will slide shallow. Those fish that might be sitting out in 15, 20 feet are now going to be up in 5 feet. So this is the best time of day to catch walleyes. A lot of the walleyes will slide shallower, so there should be even more fish along these shorelines eating our swim baits. Fish on. Nice. I think that's a smallie. Nice smallmouth. I knew we'd get into a couple. Sweet. Got him. We got a fish behind the boat. I just saw a swirl. Probably another bass. Nice. Bass have been busting on bait this evening, and it seems like whenever you cast at one, you get hit. At least get a chance at them. Fell for the Jay's jig. As many do, as many do. So right here, you can see there's a couple fish on top. We're right off the ledge. We're in like 24 feet of water right on the top, and I think that's 4 feet, 5 feet. Those are fish right there. You can see that. See that guy moving? That's a walleye swimming on top. So I'm gonna see if I can get my bait in front of him. Oh, right there. Wow, that walleye was shallow. There we go. Didn't get any monster tonight, but we caught fish on baits we made, which is pretty cool. If I was stuck using my lures for the rest of my life, I think I could still catch enough fish to survive. Didn't get a jumbo tonight, but beautiful evening, beautiful little fish fry on the lake, and Jay's jigs, baby. Taking over.